Whoops, wait a minute. Tonight is surely the biggest show-off occasion of my life. Because of this. I mean, who in the world gets to have 150 pieces up in the same building? So it's incredible and a bit overwhelming. And I'm, of course, very fortunate. I've had a very fortunate life in general. I came to Texas 20 years ago. And this is the next slide. As you can see, I went into serious training to be a Texan back in 1960 because apparently I always knew I was coming. I always wanted that bumper sticker that said I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. I didn't get here till 1988 because I came to Texas with my husband, Paul Krieg, who got a job at UT, and we instantly fell in love with Texas, in particular Austin, which I still call home. I did a graduate degree at the University of Texas in the Department of Art and Art History, and then soon after that I met Bill Wittliff, who decided that I was sort of a Texan by then and that I was all right and he liked the work I did. And so for many, many years I listened to his bad jokes, and slowly I accumulated a lot of compromising photographs of him too. And as you can see, it's all paid off nicely. But it's not in my interest to show those pictures because his wife Sally's an attorney. And I'm hoping for another show like this. Anyway, I will show you a few. This is how I know Bill best. We go out with Bill, and this is down in Mexico, and this is Bill exposing film to a donkey. And here he is doing the same thing with cactus with one of his strange pinhole cameras. And here he is trying to get in on my photo, which he always does. Anyway, seriously, again, I can't tell you how grateful it is that I am to have had my career as an artist significantly changed by the generosity of Bill and Sally Wittliff, who have become my dear friends and are responsible for this entire thing. And at this point I'm going to seriously thank a whole lot of people, and then I'm going to get on to showing you a whole lot more stupid, compromising pictures. I'm very lucky to have worked now twice with UT Press and the Wittliff Collections. I'd like to thank Joanna Hitchcock, Theresa May, Dave Hamrick, who I don't think's here tonight because he's ill. But in the particular, this time I worked with Alan Mackey, who designed the book with me and Bill and me, and Lynn Chapman, who had to deal with translating my obscure colloquial Australian ramblings into some form of American English. I want to thank all the people at the collection, in particular Carla, who I don't think she knew what she was up for, because Connie Todd retired and is probably very glad she did when she sees what had to go on afterwards. But Carla put this beautiful show together, and Michelle Miller designed all of the publicity that you got in the mail and see around the place. All these people are wonderful, smart, interesting people, many of them artists themselves, and doing a book and a whole show with them has been a great pleasure. I've made a whole lot of new friends. I want to sincerely thank Susan Bailey for her sponsorship. I have lots of friends here tonight celebrating this occasion with me, very old ones and very new ones. One of my oldest friends of 30 years came from Australia. She's here in the front row. To be here tonight, although actually I think she was really here just for the Mexican food. But she was the director of the first photography gallery in Adelaide, South Australia, back in 1979, where I had my very first photography exhibition while I was still a student at the art school in South Australia, and I was just still learning to be what it meant to be a practicing artist. I was learning to cut mats and build my own frames, and that I was learning that people actually were prepared to pay money for the art that I make, which was inconceivable to me back then. There are two people here who have made it conceivable, Terry Etherton, who shows my work in Tucson, Arizona, and Steve Clark, who works his butt off selling my work in Austin, Texas. I hope you know I've got an exhibition at his gallery tomorrow at 4 o'clock in Austin. I also want to thank my very long-time friend and neighbour. Actually, we'll go on to the next slide now, I think. Oh, you were supposed to be looking at that slide while I was thanking everyone, just as the relief from Bill. Okay, this is the next slide. So, I moved to to Tucson again 11 years ago, and had the good fortune to move in as the neighbour of Martha Smith, who's also here in the front row, who I became very good friends with. I bought a horse from her, and I board my horse with her. I live just across from there. We live out in the desert, in the Sonoran Desert of Arizona. She recognised right away when she met me that as an Australian I would never turn down a dare or a drink. And I realised right away that she was wicked and fun, and employed her to work with me in the dark room, and we've kept each other amused and entertained for 10 years in the dark room while getting quite a lot done. Finally, I'd like to thank Paul Krieg, my husband. I've known him for 30 years. There he is, a long time ago. I want to thank him for his love and his friendship and his support. I met him when we were both students in like 1977. He had saved up to buy himself a Hasselblad camera, as you can see. And I took that camera from him very soon afterwards, and as his girlfriend, I had the right. And I use it actually to this day. This is the same camera I use to this day. I think we've bought a couple of new backs for it and had it repaired 2 or 3 times, but as you know, Hasselblad cameras are fully manual. I think I also took the jean jacket. Anyway, he has very graciously accepted over the years that being with an artist is not an easy time. In fact, last weekend, a neighbour, as they often do, called me to say there was a big dead javelina on the road some ways away, and I actually woke him up because I realised the javelina was going to be heavy enough that I couldn't get it into the back of the car myself, and woke him up and said, come and get the dead javelina off the road. So in the middle of lots and lots of traffic, and I have the photograph of this, but it's too awful. It's this great big dead thing that's bleeding, and I decided I shouldn't show you after you had eaten such beautiful food. Anyway, he digs a lot of holes, and and then because sometimes he has to bankroll me, he goes and sells his science secrets to the Saudis. Okay, so the greatest... No, this is not funny, this is true. And I wrote this again because I was speaking to the Chinese and the whole talk was being translated, and I thought if there was some English that they could read. So some of these have captions that I didn't take off for you guys. The biggest influence on my work is most recently in the last 10 years has been living in the Sonoran Desert outside of the city, on sort of 4 acres against a big national park where we have this huge range of wildlife that we encounter, and beautiful, beautiful landscape in general. Most of it very alive, of course. Bobcat, our beautiful bobcat, who comes and visits our poultry water on the front porch. Javelina, very much alive. Herds of them, actually, that trot through our front yard. Lots and lots and lots of rattlesnakes. And in fact, my best story to date is that we had 2 rattlesnakes under our couch in the living room because we left the back door open. This is after we had swung the couch back to get to them. And of course we don't kill them, we have snake tongs and we pick them up and we take them back outside. And here they are on our IKEA mat. Anyway, lots and lots. And I mean, obviously, when you look around, you know, these animals, when they're dead, when I find them dead or someone else finds them dead, and I want to make a memorial to them, you know, these are the creatures that are out there in the desert. Everything dies. Woodpecker, and, you know, so I find a dead bird and I try and make some piece of art that does that beautiful thing, some justice somehow. Even the scorpions, they're beautiful things. And as you saw, this whole series was called Memories and Dreams, and it was what I imagined the creatures wanted to do in their afterlife. And I decided that all the lizards would like to be able to fly. So that's a horny toad with some metal gold wings from a lamp. And a rattlesnake on a piece of lace, etc. and a gopher snake on a piece of lace. Those two last pieces are very new and they're in Steve's show tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Anyway, so now I'm just going to completely ruin all my credibility and show you some of the sort of the behind the scenes making of this art. This is the same Hasselblad, Paul's Hasselblad, and again, as you know, they're ancient but very nice German-built cameras that are totally manual. Swedish. It's the Zeiss lenses that are German, right? See, he knows. I don't know. Anyway, I've got myself a dead coyote here, which I'm taking home, and laying out. This piece is over there in the other room. This is part of the memories and dreams. This is a coyote in his afterlife. I find myself standing on a lot of ladders for the big creatures, and as long as I've got a tripod that I can make very tall, I can usually do most things. This is actually before I had a freezer. I went out and bought a freezer from Costco the other day because these things spend a lot of time in the fridge, and after my husband complains and people stop accepting dinner invitations to dinner, I bought some freezers, and now that javelina that we picked up last weekend was so big that I had to buy a freezer and put it in. So that's the piece. Now, sometimes when I'm not in my studio, we actually go off to Australia every year to see our family, and I occasionally find these dead things and I have to improvise. So the picture, here it is, the Australian raven, I think, yeah, it's back there on the back wall. This is me making that picture, and as you can see, I have found in this particular little shack that we stay in some kind of wine cooler vessel, and this is the bed lamp that I'm using to light, and I think I've got a tripod there, but here's another one where I did a little set of Australian wildflowers, and you can see that that's like a pillowcase to make the background a bit darker, and again I've got a bed lamp that I'm holding. So, anything's possible if you can control the lighting a little bit and you've got an empty wine bottle. So, in fact, I made this particular piece on that occasion because there are these wild freesias that grow in South Australia. And then this is the raven, which is over there on the beach, that I found and dragged down onto the beach, and then I got myself the plastic chair off the veranda of this shack and decided I'd do pictures of the raven. So that's that. So I'm all for the low-tech thing. Commercial photographers are horrified, of course. Okay, so in this book, Painted Light, I've written a long introductory biography in which I tried to outline the course of events that led to who I am and what I do and why and so forth, that growing up in rural Australia with very beautiful wilderness, which is sort of empty of people compared to the most of the Northern Hemisphere, is a pretty nice experience for a child. And I had some very eccentric relatives who were animal rescue people. This is my aunt. I've tried to figure out what that book she's reading is. But this is a possum, what we call a possum, which is not the same as your opossums. It's a ring-tailed possum. And she used to rescue them. And this is, no, it's just sitting on her lap, probably it's drinking a gin and tonic, I don't know. Anyway, she had tons of rescue animals, and she and her husband used to race old Norton English bikes, bore them out and do them up and race them cross country, and they were wonderful, interesting, exciting people. In my book I've said that when they couldn't get the parts for these bikes, they used to melt down saucepans and cast them themselves. I mean, amazing stuff. This is also practice for coming to Texas. You see, I've got some very lovely Indian dolls up there that didn't fit in my 2-story dollhouse quite. But I remember loving those dolls. I had no idea actually what they were. But, of course, rather politically incorrect these days. But I think that was my 5-year-old birthday present, was those dolls. The curtains are great. I would love to have those curtains now.